Hey folks, welcome back to Good Enough Customs. So, what are we doing today? Today we're getting ready to get Big John ready to hit the road for Battle in Bama. So, it's about a 400-mile one-way trip. And, you know, Big John, if you're not familiar with Big John is a 1990 Chevy R3500. I picked this truck up for about $1,800. Put a switch, 6-inch front, 8-inch rear, actually axle flip in the back with airbag helpers, 3-inch spindle, 3-inch springs up front, dropped it down. There was a lot of stuff that this truck needed. Had to rebuild the entire front suspension, had to rebuild the axle, had to rebuild the steering, blew the motor on the first test ride, put a crate motor in it, or, you know, I think I got it from AutoZone. You know, reman motor got put in there. Legit, the only thing I really haven't touched on this truck is the trans, and Lord help me if that thing goes. But anyways, so I've been cruising this truck around probably 2 years now. I haven't put a ton of miles on it. You know, over the course of 2 years, maybe 7,000 or 8,000 miles, something like that. I can't remember how many miles it had whenever I did the motor swap. I want to say 63, it'd be 163,000 is what I'm thinking. But what's she saying right now? Yeah, it's saying 70,000 now, so it's 170. So yeah, probably somewhere in the 7,000 to 8,000 mile range. So 7,000 to 8,000 miles on it. Of course, lowered vehicles, they tend to require a little bit more maintenance when it comes to suspension parts, alignment, and all that fun stuff, because they get knocked out of alignment pretty easy. Big John has been a constant struggle with the steering. The steering's been sloppy ever since I got it all put together. It'll get better at certain points, and then it starts loosening back up. I think at this point, I think I might be just a little low on fluid. But there is something weird going on here, because if you look at that tire, I don't know, there's not a lot of light here, but you can see how smooth that is. Apparently this wheel is towed in quite a bit. The driver's side, it's not as bad, but it's towed in too. So definitely need to adjust the toe on this guy. I've got to rotate the tires. You know, there's 6 of them to deal with, so I figure since my fronts are now a little worn on the outside edges of them, they're going to go to the center rear tires, or the inside rear tires, if that makes sense. And then I'm just going to take the outside rears and put them on the front, and pick the insides that were on the inside and put them on the outside of the rear. You know, it's a whole thing. I don't know the proper way to rotate tires on a dually. I'm just like, it doesn't say that many miles, so, you know, whatever, it'll work. I'm just going to put good tread up front. How's that sound? So we're going to do that. I was running I think it was an Edelbrock 750, if I remember correctly, on the motor. It seemed to like that, but it started running a little bit rich, actually a lot rich. So in order to try to save a little bit of fuel, I ended up just dropping it back to a 650. You know, yeah, it's down on power. It's not getting as much air now, but, you know, whatever. It's a cruiser. I'm not out here burning streets up in this thing. So generally all I do is just, you know, just cruise. Speed limit roll, maybe a little bit over the speed limit. Allegedly. So there's just a few little things I need to do, mainly because, yeah, it's 400 miles one way. Right now, this thing's clocking like 8-ish miles a gallon. If you do the math, that's a lot of gas. Yeah, roughly 800 miles round trip, 8 miles a gallon. I'm going to go through 100 gallons of fuel. Ouch. At 330 to 350 a gallon, something like that. Yeah, that's going to hurt. So I figure I'll give myself a fighting chance. Maybe I can get up to 10 miles a gallon. Maybe. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, rotate tires. While I've got this guy off, I'm going to check and make sure, because I don't think I went back and repacked these hubs, these front wheel bearings. I don't think I repacked those. So if they need to be repacked, I'm going to get that done. Oh, the other thing I did. So if you are lowering a dually and you buy a kit, the 3-inch drop springs that they send you, or 2-inch drop springs, whatever, Don't use them. Throw them away. They're garbage. Actually, you could sell them to a guy that has a half-ton truck. So, looking up part numbers and all that stuff, it appears as though they only make one spring aftermarket, and it's the half-ton spring. So the spring rate's only like 820 pounds or something like that. I don't remember the numbers. I want to say it was like 800 and something or 700 and something for the half-ton, and it's like right at 900 or something like that for the 1 ton. I don't remember. I'll look it up and put it down below if I can find it again. Anyways, I didn't know that. So when I did the lower kit, I put the springs with it. Didn't know that, no, you don't do that on a 1 ton truck. You just cut one of the rounds off. It actually, it rides better. Everything I've been reading, everybody says the same thing. No, you don't put aftermarket springs on these guys. You use a factory spring, you cut one of the rounds off, and it'll ride like a dream. It lowers it to 3 inches. You're golden. So, yeah, I think I've already taken those springs somewhere else. They're not here, so I'm guessing they probably went to the recycler. I did order a set of springs, a replacement factory style replacement spring for this truck back on like March 8th, and they're still waiting. So, it says something about shipping directly from the manufacturer. So I thought about, okay, what can I do? Can I put air shocks on the front, pump it up a little bit? Yeah, I could probably do that, but I wasn't sure about the air shocks. So I was like, all right, what's something that could work better? And of course, in my head, I'm thinking airbags. Hell yeah. It's a reason to bag the truck. No, I'm not ready for that yet. I've got all this money I'm going into the freaking big block build on. Especially after last week's fiasco. So, I don't actually have the extra funds available to go ahead and bag this guy. It would be really cool. That will come one day, but not today. So the next cheapest thing I could think of was, what about those goofy little, they're so cheesy. I don't know if they work or not, but it was cheap enough. So I went ahead and jumped on these little guys. Firestone Coil-Rite. I didn't know what they were until I ordered it and got one. And yeah, it's like a rubbery plastic, maybe. I don't know. I'm guessing it'll do the job. They say this thing's rated for, I don't know, an extra 1,000 pounds of spring rate or something like that. I don't remember exactly. I looked up a bunch of them. These are actually ones for motorhomes. So I went ahead and went up to the stouter one. That one had a little bit less pressure it could take for the 1 ton trucks, and then the motorhome ones were a little bit bigger as far as weight rating. Size wise, about the same. So we may try and slide that in there. If not, I'll just deal with it. But I may slide one of those guys in there, try to stiffen the springs up a little bit, maybe add a little bit more to the spring rate on those guys, so that way it's not, it bottoms out really easy, because it almost feels like there's no suspension under the front. Anyways, I'm really talking a lot. So I guess I'm going to get started on this guy. First things first, I got to get this thing up in the air, and that's always so much fun because, it's a big truck. I mean, here's all the room I got. Not right. There's not much there. And then we come all the way back here, 23 or 4 feet later. And that's all I got at the back. Yeah, not a lot. So she's a tight fit in the shop. But yeah, I'm gonna go over here, get this guy up in the air so I can start pulling wheels off. Also gonna do an oil change and just kind of go through everything, just make sure everything's happy, everything's good, so maybe we can not have any unexpected issues on our road trip. So anyways, I'm gonna get to it, and I guess I'll catch back up with y'all here in just a few minutes. Passenger side. When I pull this tire is like, this tire's ruined. So it ought to have a decent life as an inner rear tire, but we're down to the wear bars. On the outside, it's a half wear, it's a half the tread wear is gone on it, just the outside half. Anyways, I got over here and I was like, all right, let's just check this bearing, see if there's anything going. It's fairly tight, but then I grabbed it down low and there's just the slightest amount of play in it. I mean, it's not much, but there is a little bit of play. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the hub and pull the bearings, repack the bearings. I want to use that nice thick Lucas bearing grease that I got. That stuff's awesome. Super, what is it called? Red and tacky. And it is definitely red and tacky. So, so we'll get this guy pulled off here in just a minute and get started. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, I do have to say I failed as a backyard mechanic by not paying attention to this. I saw it a while back, but didn't really pay much attention to it and just like, yeah, I'll deal with it later. And then later never came. Don't worry about this. This is not a dry rot crack. This is a screw or something up here where it's grabbing. And it's, you know, somewhere up here, because you can see where it keeps rubbing on the tire whenever it bottoms out. And there's actually a screw there. I bet that's the one. There's also a bolt head or something right there. Maybe we can pull those out and try to save the next tire that comes up here. So those are the only two things in that spot. Oh, there's a screw right there. So I'm not sure what those are holding in, but we'll relocate it. How's that sound? So anyways, all right, so tire's off. That's going to go to the rear as one of the inners. And then we're going to get started on pulling this guy apart. I'll probably go ahead and paint this hub while I'm in here. All right, folks, so the calipers on this guy, they're a little different than your normal calipers. You know, usually you'd have a couple bolts on the back holding the caliper on. This does not. It actually has a little Allen head bolt right here, and I'm going the wrong way. So we got a little Allen head bolt that basically it keeps a slide in here to keep this guy from moving around. There's that. And this little slide, there's also a little there's also like a little spring type thing up underneath here. Let's see if we can get a good whack on it. This ain't such a pain. I'm not a big fan of them. So, yeah, this is all that holds the freaking caliper on. There's a little spring that sits up on top right there, a little clip, and you got your little slide that's got the hole to keep it from sliding in and out. So, not a big fan of that, but, you know, I guess it works. All right, let me get up off the ground. So I can pull this guy off and not drop it on my face. In case you didn't know, these guys are kind of heavy and you're not supposed to let these hang by the hose. So I just usually keep a couple zip ties. You know, I got bags of zip ties floating around. So I'll just take a zip tie and hang it back here through the control arm. And that way I can just zip tie it off, you know, run through the hole here. And here. we'll take the brake pads and just kind of set them off to the side. Still plenty of life left on these guys. I would expect that after, you know, only 7,000 miles. All right, a little different angle. Maybe you can see a little bit better. All right, so we have an access hole right up here that allows us to get down to the cap. Come on now. There we go. Grease don't smell too bad. So this guy, I remember retorquing it. I don't remember if I actually did repack the bearings or not. Ugh. And the torque specs on this thing still just freak me out to this day. It's only supposed to be torqued to like 12 pounds, but that'll get her done, so to speak. So, all right, now to get this big heavy son of a gun and figure out where I'm gonna put it. Yeah. Ah. All right, so we'll go ahead and pull her on out, and we'll just kind of see what's going on down in there. There's plenty of grease on this guy, and it's not in terrible shape. It doesn't really smell all that burnt. It smells like it might have got a little hot, but it doesn't feel bad. Ugh. Yeah, these are, listen, you can kind of see a little bit of walking. Yeah, those will need to be just repacked, I think. Give them a good packing. I'll clean this bearing up and see what the rollers look like, if they need to be replaced or what. So all right, I guess I'm gonna figure out a spot to go cleaning and getting, you know, bearing grease off, and I'll be back. All right, so running out of real estate. It's getting so tight in the shop right now. I probably ought to clean that bench up. That, you know how workbenches get. There's kind of a catch-all. So now my little work table over here for the for the engine stuff, yeah, it's becoming a workbench. So just took a old oil jug, cut the side out, threw a little diesel down in there, and I'll just take the bearings, drop them down in there, and clean them up. Just, you know, I got my little cleaning brush, so we'll get in there and get them cleaned up. And then we'll go through, and I've got a few of these. So this red and tacky grease, I picked that up off of Amazon. I think I got like a 4-pack of it. Yeah, there's 3 more things of it. So I picked up like a 4-pack. It wasn't much. I mean, it was, I don't know, 50, 60 bucks, something like that, for 4 jugs, 4 1-pound tubs. So I used one of them on Steve when I redid his after I smoked that one bearing. And that's the whole reason for doing this, is I don't want to smoke another bearing and cause myself the fit that I had with having to get Steve, you know, go rent a trailer, pull him, you know, go down there, tow him all the way back. If you don't remember that one, there's a link over here. Not that big a deal with Steve. Yeah, it sucked, but it wasn't that big a deal. Big John, on the other hand, I can't just go to U-Haul and rent a trailer, because, you know, he's much longer than U-Haul trailers. Not to mention, I think this thing weighs 7,000 pounds, roughly. So, yeah. So that's the main reason for doing this, because I don't want to smoke a bearing like I did before. That was a nightmare. So, so I'm going to get these pulled out, get them cleaned up. I'm not going to film all that. I've done that before. Again, you could refer back to the video when, actually, I think I can put a link to that one up here, where I repack the bearings and all that stuff. So that kind of covers it all on that part of it. There's also where we're packing them with Jeremy's truck. I've done a lot of bearings. So I'm not going to worry about filming it. That way I can just kind of, plow through it, get it done, and we get this guy reassembled. And then that'll pretty much do it for the hub side of this, and then we'll figure out how to wedge that that plasticky rubber air bag thing, whatever. My hopes are not real high for that. It seems kind of cheap, but maybe I'll be surprised. I don't know. But anyways, I'm gonna get to it. I'll be back in a few. All right, so got the bearings pulled and got them cleaned up, so you can kind of see this bearing's actually not bad. It's pretty good. There is a little bit of wear, not much. I'm not worried about the outer bearing. Yeah, so the outer or the inner bearing was a little different story. So the bearing itself is actually not bad. If you look at the rollers, there's still a little schmutz on them. And I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not, but there are some little witness marks across the rollers all the way across. It's a pretty straight line all the way around. Just on, see if I can't do this. Hang on a second. So, looking at the outer or the inner bearing, there is a little witness mark right about there where my thumb is, and it literally is on every single roller all the way around. And there's another one back here on the back edge right there where this thumb is, right off this back edge. And again, it follows on every single roller all the way around. So that was the first thing I saw. And then I was like, well, let's clean up the inside. I don't know how well that translates, but you can kind of see it's got some hot spots that have gotten on the inside of the race there. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. So yeah, I got hot spots right in here. So that tells me this guy was getting low on grease and the whole thing was spinning instead of just this outer piece. So this guy was spinning on the spindle, which would create those heat spots. So it's actually got just a little bit of a catch right about in there. Yeah, so this bearing is gonna have to be replaced. It'd probably be all right to run it. I mean, realistically, pack it up good, it'll probably be fine. But with it getting hot enough to blue the material, down here and all over here, with it getting that hot, it may have caused something else to, cause some other damage that I can't see. So rather than risk it, I'm just gonna go ahead and buy new bearings. Yay. So I'm gonna, I'm not even gonna worry about the other side. I'm just gonna go ahead and replace all the bearings on the front. We're gonna pack this guy up the right way and get this guy torqued down the right way. That's probably part of the problem. Not having it torqued down the correct specs probably was, something that helped to cause that. So yeah, I'm just going to clean up the hub. I already wiped the spindle down. The spindle's fine. I don't see any hot spots on the spindle, thank God, because I don't really want to have to replace the spindle again. So, but spindle looks fine. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the inside of the hub and get all that grease out. Those two, they're just, I'll set them in a baggie or something and set them off to the side. Maybe I'll pack them up. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'll go ahead and get them packed and stick them in a baggie and stick them on a shelf. That way, or maybe stick them in the toolbox in the back of this guy. That way I've got an extra set of bearings in case something does happen and a bearing fails and I need a bearing. I'll have a set ready to go. Or the other side, if they're fine, I'll just, reuse those. I'm gonna go ahead and replace that side anyways. So I'll go ahead and pack up one set of these bearings and have a spare set. Yeah, that'll work. And I can just throw them in the back of the truck in the toolbox, and then I don't have to worry about it. So anyhow, it's getting about dinner 30. So I'm gonna call it a night and go get some dinner, and then actually while I'm out, I'll go ahead and hit the parts house and get the pieces and parts I need. That way tomorrow night I can get these bearings repacked, get everything done, and get this front end put back together. And well, still got to do those little airbag thingies. So anyways, I guess I'll catch back up with y'all later. Well, I was so excited to get to work that I totally forgot to turn the camera on. So let me get you caught up. So I got new bearings, inner and outer. Ended up having to replace the inner bearing race as well, because it wasn't bad. I probably could have run it and it probably would have been fine. Yep, I got it right here. You can kind of see, yeah, you kind of see that little dark edge, like right on that edge right there. You can kind of see where it's dark. It's a little different color. That's where it was sliding around on there, I guess. So put a new race on the inner, repacked or packed in the inner and outers. Got those guys torqued down. Finally got the cotter key in. Those are a pain on these hubs, by the way, because you got to go way in there and you can't see it. So you kind of have to feel around and then adjust the nut to get it to slide in there. It's a chore. So right now I'm done here. Just reassembly basically. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead. I've actually started with the wire wheel and started knocking all this rust and crap off. And then I'll just throw a little, I don't know, I'll throw something over the rotor to keep it from getting paint on it. And then I'll just shoot it with some of that engine enamel. That black engine enamel, that crap sticks to everything. So I'm gonna finish cleaning this guy up and get it, shoot it with some brake clean to clean it. And then we'll give her a little shot of some spray paint. And yeah, ready to go on this side. Then it's got to move to the driver's side and pull that one apart, check it. I'm sure it's probably the same. I went ahead and bought new inner and outer bearings for both sides. Just screw it. Let's just do it. So I got to get that side done. So I bought the parts. Just got to get that side done over there. Figure while I'm in here, sensuous type things, I'm going to go through, and I got a lot of grease fitting. So upper ball joint, I know there's one on the lower, control arm bushing, get the whatchamadoodgy steering. I'm blanking on the name of it. You know, this guy. Get that guy greased up. Go ahead and grease my tie rod ends, both sides. General maintenance crap. So I'm gonna go through and do all that. And then once I get both sides bearings replaced and done, then we'll look at putting those. I don't know if I'm gonna use them or not. Those little, blue spring things, whatever. Basically, I'll use them if I can get them in there without having to tear apart the entire suspension. If I got to tear the suspension apart, screw it. We'll just deal with some rubbing on the wheel well there. And then once I get the truck back down, I got a few, screws and bolts to pull out. And deal with that. So, all right, back at it. All right, greased everything. And I got this guy painted. It looks pretty good. So he's still drying. So I guess I'm gonna find something else to do real quick. Actually, I guess I can go ahead and put the brake caliper back on. That ought to be fine. So I'll go ahead and slap that brake caliper on. That'll open up my gap back here so I can actually get to the coil spring. And we'll see about getting one of those, get one of them little plastic airbag things shoved in there. I don't know. I'm not real hopeful. So yeah, I'll be back in just a minute. So, got these guys. Yeah, they look a little hokey, but just read through the directions. It's not too hard. I figure I'm gonna save myself a little bit of time and use my big butt for something good. So what I did was I took the valve stem out so I could deflate this guy, and that way you can actually monkey around with it a little bit. Reading through the directions, you don't have to go through the coil springs. You actually go through there should be a hole at the bottom of the lower control arm, which I'm pretty sure there is. And basically you deflate this guy, and then once he's deflated, you take it and you twist. Basically twist it up into as small a piece as you can get. So, yeah, that's pretty flat. Good work, butt. All right, so it's saying I should be able to run it up through this hole. But that hole is, what, 2 inch maybe. The end of this guy is much larger. It's, that don't look like it's gonna work. But we will see. I'm all for trying. Let's see what happens. We have to twist this guy up. I wonder. Ooh. I got an idea. I'll be right back. All right, this still isn't doing what I want. Whew. I was thinking I could zip tie this thing into a little tighter, but this end is still just so bulbous. So, I really don't know what to do there. How are you gonna fit in there? Because I honestly don't know. I ain't drilling that damn thing out. I ain't got a hole saw that big. I wonder if I just let the air completely out of this guy. No, don't reinflate. No, you're reinflating. All right, just a tip. Oh no, it slipped out. Okay. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm folding one corner in. These things are rigid as hell. But, trying to fold one corner in, I can do it closer to myself. I can't do it way out here. Fold one corner in and roll it up on top of itself. Now that I see that, I may try and get that done and then stick the valve stem back in it. Maybe I can do that. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So, having burned about 45 minutes trying to get those plastic airbag coil spring helper things in through the hole in the lower A-arm, yeah, and trying to get them to squeeze through the coil spring itself, there is no freaking way. Yeah, it basically says take and just twist it up and push it up in there. The hell you say? The ends of it are so thick that you can't hardly kink them down. You can't roll them up. There's no way to fold them over on top of themselves. So yeah, that is definitely something. If I decide to use them or keep them or whatever, that'll be something I have to drop the control arm and, unload the suspension, drop the control arm out, slide it down in there and do it that way. I got too much crap to do in a short time frame. So those are just going to get pushed off to the side. I just have to deal with it bottoming out on the big bumps. So, yeah, I did look, I've actually, while I'm doing all this, I decided to change the oil, and I did look, and we have, if I can get my light to work with me. So these two screws right here, might help if I'm pointing the camera in the right spot. So these two screws right here are the ones that are just chewing the tread up on the tires. So, and I know what that is. That is a little circuit breaker that I put in. I guess I just never really realized it sits right over where the tires rub. So I'm going to pull that off. Not right now. I'm going to do that here probably tomorrow. Pull this off, reroute it off to the side, mount it up over here on the fender, on the inside of the fender over here somewhere. I take this fuel pressure regulator out because I'm not using it. So, all right, getting back to it. Passenger side done. Really sucks that those little airbag things don't work, but where I can't get them to work. Wonder if heating them up would help. Nah, I'd probably mess them up. Anyways, I'll just deal with it. Whatever. So yeah, passenger side's done. Everything's greased. Bearings are packed. Shitload of grease in them things. They shouldn't get like they did hopefully. Painted that hub. Everything's ready to go over here, so all I got left to do is slap a wheel on it, but I still got to take the back tires off. I hadn't done that yet. So I still got to do that, but for now, I'm gonna go over to the driver's side and work on getting that banged out. And then kind of in between, as I need to take a break or whatever, you know, frustration breaks. Those happen to all of us. Then I'll slide under here and finish changing the oil on this guy. So actually, I don't think I've changed the oil in this thing in about a year, something like that. Right around a year. I think what I wrote on the filter said 66,000 miles. It's got 70,000 now. So it's had an oil change in the last 4,000 miles. So anyhow, I'm going to get to it, and I'll check back in with y'all here in a bit. Well, hey there. Man, what an evening. So, as you can tell, finishing up the oil change. Went through, got the driver's side redone. I didn't worry about cleaning those bearings up because the grease was, well, the grease was cooked. It smelled terrible. There's a couple hot spots on the spindle. That shouldn't be that big of a deal. Yeah, I know. I guess when I originally packed these guys, I didn't do as good a job as I should have. That and definitely having the wrong torque spec on it. I'm sure that didn't help. So I'm really glad that I went through and I double checked these bearings. It was kind of one of those, the truck was telling me something was up. And I couldn't quite figure out what it was. I was like, well, it's all new. Yeah, I screwed up. So, all right, like I said, really glad that I checked those bearings. That probably would have ended up, pretty much similar to a power tour. Leaving me stranded and having to figure out a way to get this big old honking truck home. Oh yeah, so I can't put the front end completely back together because I broke the cotter pin over here, so I couldn't reuse it. I know you're not supposed to reuse cotter pins, but they hadn't been in there that long. They weren't in bad shape, except, well, this one was. It was wedged in there pretty tight, so ended up having to twist it to get it out. Ripped it all to shreds. So I don't have any big enough for these spindles, so I got to go to the parts house in the morning. It's like 10:30, quarter to 11. So parts house is closed, but go to the parts house in the morning, pick up some cotter pins, and then finish putting this side back together. All that's left is the cotter pin and greasing up the cap and slapping it on there. Everything's ready to go. Then I can pull the rear tires off and get to rotating, get the tires rotated out. Probably gonna have to do some spray painting, I would imagine, on some wheels. Just kind of clean them up a little bit. They're a little bit beat, but there's a few other things that I want to try to look at underneath while I got the truck up in the air, because to be honest, I don't put this truck up in the air that often, just because it takes up so much room in the shop. But there's a couple things I need to look at underneath. One, I still have a driveline vibration, and from what I was told, and the way it looks underneath actually, is you've got the rear pinion pointing down slightly, and then you also have the transmission pointing down. So you have the drive shafts going up and going up. So, or maybe it was drive shaft going down and this going up. I can't remember. Either way, the drive line's screwy. So one way to fix that is to move that drive shaft bushing carrier bearing. That's what I was looking for. So you can move that guy to adjust the angle coming off the transmission, which then will correct the angle going to the back, so you don't have two pointing down or pointing up. I can't remember now. Let's see, drive shaft is from the rear. Oh yeah, they both point down. That's right, they both point down. So if I can raise this side up, that'll bring this side up and it'll make it damn near level. So I'm gonna try to look at that tomorrow. I think it's probably gonna be a little bit more involved than what I'm looking to get into. So I probably won't do much with it. If it's something I can kind of modify quickly and easily, sure. If not, it's not a bad vibration. It's annoying. So I'm gonna look at that tomorrow. May look at trying to activate the other fuel tank so I don't have to stop every 115 miles or so to top off the single tank that I'm running. And then tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon, do a little shop alignment just to make sure my toe isn't as bad as I'm hoping it is or thinking it is. So the toe could have been affected by the bearings. You know, the tire just kind of moving around on its own out there with all the weight of the truck on it. That could have been part of it. But you know, I'll get the tape measure out. I'll get Jackson out here to give me a hand, and we'll double check the toe on this guy, make sure that the toe end's set correctly, and yeah, then we'll be ready for a trip. So I guess I'm gonna finish cleaning up real quick, and then I gotta finish putting oil on this guy. So I'm gonna finish that, then I'm gonna clean up, and then I'm gonna go inside. So I guess I'll be back at it tomorrow. All right, so next day, a little later start than I was hoping, but I did get to sleep in. Ended up wrapping up last night about midnight. So yeah, definitely long day yesterday. But passenger side, y'all saw that guy was done, and then going back over here to the driver's side, had to go out and get a cotter key, or a little box of cotter keys. So I got a new cotter key on this guy. He's all packed in, ready to go. So we're ready for tires. I just got to pull the tires off the back of this guy. So getting ready to do that, do a little tire rotation. And like I said, might have to do some paint on some wheels. I don't know what the wheels are actually going to look like. So may have to throw a little paint on some wheels, since it'll be, you know, outside right there front and center. So I guess I'm going to get on that, and then oil change is finished up. Already got fresh oil in it, new filter. Threw a little zinc additive in there as well, on these older motors, where you got flat tappet, let's see, what is it, hydraulic flat tappet lifters on this guy. A lot of the newer oil doesn't have the zinc that you need in order to protect those pieces and parts, so threw a bottle of zinc additive in there. I try to do that on the older, you know, on all the older motors and stuff. Just kind of, you know, make things live a little longer, especially on flat tappet stuff. Steve, I'm not too worried about. Steve's got hydraulic rollers, so should be fine there. Hydraulic roller lifters. Yeah, so should be good there. So I think what I'm going to do is get these tires rotated, maybe do a little spray painting, and get the wheels all back on this guy, getting ready to go back on the ground. But before I do that, I'm gonna slide up underneath it and look at a few things there. And then I've got a bunch of other crap to do to get prepped to leave tomorrow morning, bright and early. So I guess I'm supposed to set the camera up, let y'all guys, you know, watch me run around like crazy. So so I'll be back in a little bit. Got the rear wheels and tires off. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the outers from the rear. They're going to move to the front. The inners from the rear are going to move to the outer, and the fronts are going to move to the inner. Everybody got that? So so driver's side looked fine, no issues there. I did see one of the airbag hose. I'll show you on this side, but the airbag hose right here was rubbing up against a bolt, rubbing up against that nut, like right there. So I just took a piece of fuel line, you know, a little short scrap piece I had, split it and wrapped it, and it's fine. So made a little bit of a discovery back here on the passenger side. When I pulled the wheel off, the inner wheel, there's gear oil all over it. There's gear oil still all over, you know, this stuff. I hit it with some brake clean, try to knock it loose, but you can kind of see, you know, there's still some gear oil back here. So it's not leaking out of this flange because this was all dry. I never had there wasn't anything up here. So there is a flange somewhere in this neighborhood. And I looked back behind this rotor, and you can actually see where it's got gear oil down in there. It's not a lot, you know. I figure if it's been leaking, it's probably been leaking for a little while. You know, it's not anything that I'm like screaming about, like, oh dear God, because it's not just sopping wet. It is wet, but it's not like, you know, just puddling or anything like that. So there is a leak there. So right now I'm not tearing this whole rear axle down to troubleshoot that little leak just for this little road trip. I say little road trip. But I am going to check the rear end, make sure it has plenty of gear oil in it. Make sure it's not low. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe the vent's plugged up or something. So I'll double check my vent, make sure that it's flowing freely. So I'm not going to really address that right now. That'll be something I'll put on the books for another day, mainly because it's, you know, time crunch. And that is a very involved process to tear all this stuff down, because you got to pull the axle shaft out. That's not that big a deal. But to tear all this stuff down, you have to, I want to say you have to pull, yeah, you got to knock the wheel studs out, if I remember right, unless this is part of it. I can't remember exactly how this all went together. I've got the directions somewhere. And this is a kit that I bought when I was first putting this truck together. I think it was, who was that? Lug Nut 4x4. It was the only one I could find that I had a disc brake kit for a Dana 70 rear end. And it was only like $550. The entire rear brakes needed to be completely rebuilt on this guy. It needed new drums, it needed new shoes, it needed all new hardware. Nobody had any of that stuff in stock. The best prices I could find on it was Rock Auto, but then it was also shipping on top of it. So once everything was all said and done, it was going to be $375, $400, I want to say, just to put the drum brakes back on it. So that's why I opted to go with the disc brake kit. You know, and this is the first time I ever set up a disc brake kit, disc brake conversion kit. And actually, I think this is the first time I've had the wheels off of it since I did it. That's either blindly trusting what I did, or I'm very confident. I'll go with the first response on that one. But you can actually see a witness mark here, where I guess where the lower part of this brake pad's actually sitting there rubbing on the rotor. It's self-clearanced, so it's not rubbing anymore. But my guess is my bracket, when I welded it on, it might be a little bit crooked, and it's holding this guy down just a little bit on this side. So that's something I can take whenever I go to tear this down to figure out what exactly is going on with this rear end. I can take and try to, you know, level that bracket up a little bit. You know, worst case, cut it back off, re-weld it on. I'm a lot better at welding than I was when I first put this on here. So I've had a little bit of practice. So so that would be something else I can address whenever I go to, you know, fixing this, you know, gear oil leak or this blown out seal. So anyways, no real surprises other than that back here. Just went through, verified, you know, airbags look good, air hoses look good. I already know I have a broken spring on the other side. It's not the main leaf, it's one of the ones in, it's like third or fourth one down in the leaf pack. It's been like that since I put the truck together. In all reality, I could probably just take the spring pack apart, because I don't need, how many springs is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 springs total. Don't really need 9 springs back here. I could probably pull 3 or 4 of them out, you know, but I'm just gonna leave it. But no other broken springs, so no big deal there. Everything looks good though. I don't know if I've ever shown a really in-depth look back here on Big John. So, you know, this is the switch spring over kit. Actually, the spring over kit is not Switch. I forget who I bought that from, because I screwed up when I ordered it from Switch. I ordered it for a 14 bolt because I didn't ever look at the rear end. I didn't realize I had a Dana 70 back here. So yeah, so it's I forget who did the spring over. But spring over kit, C-notch, which came from Switch. Let's see, airbag, air helper bags, again, came from Switch. They actually mount up on a really neat little bracket that ties in underneath the U-bolts. There's also let's see if I can get to it. Right here is a bolt that there's I think it's a 1 or 1.5 inch bar that ties in this side to that side of the frame. So that way it since this is an open C-channel frame, it ties in to where this thing, it holds it nice and square back here. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell back here. And again, up front, it's 3-inch knuckle, 3-inch springs. And I'll say it again, knowing what I know now, don't use the lowering springs. Do factory springs, cut a round off, and you should be all right. So, okay, enough of that. I'm gonna get, I've got to get this wheel cleaned up because it's got, gear oil in it. Also did notice there's a witness mark here where it's rubbed on something, and I can't quite figure out what this is. I put tape on it. It measured out to 7 3/4 inches, which is around this area. It's right through this area of the wheel, or of the hub, coming off the face of the the flange here. So it's about 7 3/4, 7 3/4, somewhere in that neighborhood, and that puts me right in this neighborhood. But there's no witness marks on this. I'm not seeing anything where it's just been sitting there, self-clearanced itself right in through here. So I'm not sure what that is, unless that was there prior to and I just never painted the inside of this wheel. I'm thinking I did paint the inside of the wheels. Driver's side, I'm gonna have to hit it with the wire brush because it's rusty as hell. So there's a chance I never did paint the inside of the wheels. I just painted the outside and was like, good enough. So I got to get some degreaser on this guy and get it cleaned up, and then get that other one with the wire wheel, knock all that rust loose, and then we'll give her a shot of paint. So that'll about wrap up the wheels off scenario here. And then, like I said, I'm gonna check the gear oil, and then I'll slide up underneath it and see if I can't figure out how to possibly use a second tank, because I'm running an external, little click-clack fuel pump on this guy, which actually I need to go pick up another fuel pump just to be on the safe side. This tank over here on the passenger side still has the TBI fuel pump in it, so it's putting out like 17 pounds of fuel pressure, which is way too much for a carbureted application. I do have a fuel pressure regulator, but it failed, so that's why it's not even being used. I don't know what I'm gonna do on this. I may just say screw it and just run the single tank. It's worked this far. I do actually have a Suburban tank that fits in the back here behind the pumpkin and the rear of the truck. It's like a 32-gallon tank, and it should fit, but I haven't measured everything out because I didn't think about it, and I put a hitch in and I welded it in, and I may have welded it in because I wanted it hidden behind the roll pan, so it may be a little too far back for me to actually be able to use that fuel tank, unless I cut the fuel tank and then cut out a section so it clears. I may do that. I don't know. We'll see. That's not something I'm doing today. Those are things for down the road. So yeah, like I said, I'm gonna see if I can't at least see what's going on here, and then if I can't figure out something with this other fuel tank, worst case, maybe I can figure out something with my fuel gauge, because fuel gauge doesn't work. So I just have to kind of keep an eye on the little tripometer, and whenever it gets around 115, 120 miles, I'm like, time for fuel. So worst case, I can at least get me a fuel gauge, because I don't have one. So I'm gonna look at that after I get the wheels done. Those are kind of more important than the fuel gauge at this point. So all right, I guess I'm gonna get to it. I'll be back. All right, got the wheels painted up. Decided that my new front wheels, yeah, they're okay. Paint wasn't that bad, but it was a little faded, so I figured I'd freshen them all up. So we got 4 freshly painted wheels. Now the front ones I didn't really prep. I just kind of shot them with some brake clean, and brake clean and spray paint go together so well. It kind of started dissolving the paint a little bit, but that's okay. It'll be all right. So wiped them down real good and yeah, got them a good shot. So waiting on those guys to dry up, and once they dry I can slap them on there. But in the meantime, while I'm waiting on them to dry, a couple other things I can do. One, I need to polish my caps. That's not that big a deal. It'll take a few minutes to do. They're not really that bad. I gotta polish those guys, but I've also got to get underneath the truck. I keep putting it off because I hate working up underneath this thing. It's that whole laying on your back the whole time, just sitting there going, laying on the ground. So I guess I'm gonna jump to it and get underneath this big turd and see if there's anything I can do for a fuel gauge, maybe a second fuel tank and driveline. So I'll be back. All right, so I went ahead and put the wheels on, and I went ahead and polished up the caps. Do anything to keep from getting up underneath this truck. So I got the wheels on, got the caps polished, got them on, and it looks all right on there. It'll look really good out in the daylight. All right, I guess I've put it off long enough. I got to get under the truck, so I guess I'll see you under there. All right, so under the truck now, and I found a puddle of tranny fluid, so you can kind of see where it's dripping out the rear seal. It's also coming out of the speedo cable, so the seal's probably getting ruined from the drive shaft vibration if I had to put money on it. That's probably where the problem is there. Let's see, let's turn this way. So there's not much I can do here with the carrier bearing. It's attached on two pieces. So dark under here, but you can see it's attached to that cross member. It's one big cross member. It's attached to the front and the rear of it, and it looks like what I've done in the past, which I don't know if has any help or not, was I stacked some washers in here to try to pivot, because this guy sat on an angle, you know, kind of pointed down. So I put some washers in there and some longer bolts to try to angle that, try to get that angle up a little bit, and that doesn't appear to have helped. There's not much I can do here without rebuilding this cross member, because it is, yeah, it's riveted in. Plus my exhaust is hanging off of it. So yeah, that's a big ticket item to do on another day. Let's see, there's where the fuel pump lives. I double checked up front here and just kind of rattled the U-joint. Seems fine. They should be, they're all new. Let's see, fuel stuff. Let's take a look at that. All right, here's all our fuel switch and all that crap. I don't have a lot of time, folks, to be monkeying around with this. This one, I think is, yeah, this has been cut loose. So all I have is this one line, and it's ran clear up to the front. So just one big piece of rubber fuel line running up to the front just to bypass all of this. We've got, that's disconnected. Yeah. I don't remember how all this stuff was wired. And like I said, I don't have a ton of time. So, yeah, we're just going to call it good enough. Not going to really worry about trying to figure out the fuel tank thing. Like I said, running out of time. I've got, I got some stuff I have to load up to take down to Mom and Dad's house down there. So I've got to figure out how to load all that stuff up to where it doesn't fall through the big gaping hole in the bed. And then I got to pack and get everything else ready to go. Plus we still got to do a little shop alignment on the front. Since Jackson's home, he can give me a hand with that. So, yeah, everything under here works. It's just, it doesn't work great. Since there is no fuel gauge, it's a minor thing. I just have to keep an eye on the mileage, which that's easy enough. So, anyhow, yeah, I guess I'm just going to slide out from underneath here. And This is stuff that'll keep for another day. So, all right, I guess I'm gonna get out from underneath here and get the truck back on the ground. And then I've got to get that one little breaker moved that's up front that's cutting the tires. So I got to move that. And then quick alignment. And then we're gonna be all right. So I'll see you back up top. All right, taking Big John down the road, just a little test trip. Just make sure front end feels good. A little shop alignment. It was actually a little over a ½ inch out of alignment. So got that pulled back in. Definitely not having to fight the steering wheel as much, just on this short little bit that I'm driving now. But yeah, it feels good. No weird noises, rattles, or anything like that coming out of the front end. You know, we're doing all the work. Feels pretty good up there. So let's get her out on the main highway, get it up to, you know, highway speeds instead of just, you know, neighborhood speeds. All right, now we're out on the main drag, big highway. See how she do. Roll up the window so there ain't so much wind noise. Oh yeah, much better, much better. I was having to fight the rear end or the front end constantly with the steering, just to keep this thing going straight down the road. Yeah, that's much better. So alignment, big deal. That's probably gonna help my 8.5 miles a gallon I've been that I've been getting. That'll help that to where, you know, maybe now I can get double digits. Here's hoping. So yeah, so I guess that's gonna do it for this one. Big John's about ready. I gotta go get back to the house. And oh yeah, it's not dancing all over the place when I hit bumps either, so that's nice. Yeah, so I've got to get back to the house. I got to finish up laundry so I can pack, and then get the truck packed up, and get ourselves a little cooler put together for road trip snacks and whatnot, and then be ready to rip. So I appreciate y'all guys watching. Next week will probably be coverage of the Battle in Bama trip. So you know, a lot of car show stuff there, plus the drop down and the drop back. I may put a counter on how much Jackson sleeps, since, you know, he falls asleep a lot in the truck or any vehicle for that matter. So yeah, we may see how that turns out. But anyhow, appreciate y'all guys watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you made it this far and you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's, you know, it's right there. Everybody knows where it's at. So anyways, look forward to seeing y'all next week, and I guess we'll talk to y'all later. Just remember, it ain't gotta be perfect, just good enough. So we'll holler at y'all later.